Hello, fellow wrestling crusaders. My name is Sean Waskrug, and with me is my brand new co-host Jordan Owens, aka JPO. And for anyone who watched the very first episode, we're current. Well, I'm going backwards. Current in the wrestling business, former pro wrestler here. We're here to talk about what we love, and that's pro wrestling. And to talk about pro wrestling, there's one major company you have to talk about because they are the gods of pro wrestling, and that is the WWE or WWF.
PWG. Oh, sorry.
Yes, PW. Hey, we will talk about PWG at some point because I fucking love PWG with a passion. But we are talking about WWE today. And we're start of the new year. Obviously, we're on the road to WrestleMania. Royal Rumble is a few days away, and I wanted to talk to you about this because I haven't got to talk to you about it lately. So a lot of this stuff, I'm really interested because we haven't got to talk a lot of wrestling lately. And today we're going to talk about what the landscape of WWE is right now. How are we feeling with Triple H fully, for the most part, in charge, running the shows? How are we liking the direction of everything's going? What could they do better? Or what do they need to double down on because it's working really, really well? Jordan, let's go ahead and start with you. Now, for me personally, my wrestling viewing is mostly WWE and AEW. I used to watch New Japan religiously, but it just got way too much wrestling, not enough time in the day. And TNA, I personally haven't watched TNA in years.
Well, they just came back. There's only one episode to watch.
Yeah, and I Ring of Honor. Problem is I don't have access TV, so it's hard to catch those. So for me, WWE, AEW are the things that I, for the most part, watch. I know you watch a lot more than that, which is why also I want you on the show because you could talk a lot more about certain things that I can't. But I'm always reading, I'm always learning, and trying to figure out what's going on, so I know the names and the people. So when someone comes up to NXT or pops up out of nowhere, like, oh, that's that person. Okay, cool. But with WWE, how are you feeling coming into the new year on the road to WrestleMania?
You know, we're at a really interesting time with pro wrestling here. I mean, as everyone knows, hell, quote unquote, froze over. With CM Punk returning, something I didn't think we'd ever see. Up until maybe a couple months ago, we started to get the feeling. But and we're in the road to WrestleMania, man. I'm always been a huge Royal Rumble guy. I think it's a fun concept. It's kind of the only gimmick pay-per-view left. You know what I mean? We kind of abandoned for most years the Survivor Series concept.
That hurts my fucking heart.
It does too. I would love to continue Survivor Series. I wish King of the Ring never went away. Like I like themed shit. You know what I mean?
There's a topic that I want to do at a future show, and that's going to be greatly about that. So we'll hit that later.
We'll table
that for another conversation. But yeah,
continue. That's why I was giving Rumble credit here because here's the concept that debuted in '88 and has stuck around, and they've never even really messed with the concept too much, other than doing the 1 year where they threw in another 10, or then the extra Saudi Rumble. They never really messed with the concept, which I enjoyed. So and we're at interesting ground here. We still have the occasional mass releasings that you might kind of argue with, and maybe we'll get more into whether it's right or wrong to have these kind of really lengthy reigns for everybody here. Everybody's having a lengthy reign, from Rhea to Gunther to obviously Seth, and then obviously Roman. So maybe there's a little bit of qualms on that, but I think overall, I'm the most excited about WWE I have been in probably several years. You know what I mean? As much as I love and respect Vince, we're not here. If it wasn't for Vince, I was kind of ready for him to step aside. I was ready for a fresh face to take over. And I think for the most part, it's worked. I like some of the international stuff they're doing here. We're going to a different, we were somewhere different for Backlash. We're somewhere different for the Chamber. I think those kind of lend a different atmosphere to it. And I think overall it's an exciting time. More good than bad, for sure, in my opinion.
Since you touched on it at the very beginning, were you one of the people that were excited for CM Punk to come back because of the CM Punk of it all, or did the situations that happened in AEW kind of sour you on his comeback?
No, man. I maybe I'm a bit, I don't want to say biased, but like I've been a CM Punk fan literally since the Ring of Honor days. I was the kind of guy that saw those Punk, Smo Joe, CM Punk hour-long matches. So I was a really big champion of his. Telling my brother, who kind of mentioned like me and my brother were big fans. When he debuted on ECW on Sci-Fi, like watch out for this guy. I'm telling you. you know. And so, I was one of those people that like was so pumped when he debuted in AEW, shocked when he debuted in WWE. So no, and also I'm a firm believer in multiple things. What happened there doesn't account for what happens here, and I think WWE is not dumb either. If he truly is so hard to work with, then he'll be outed. You know what I mean? Let's give the guy a chance here. I do think, as much as maybe some of it's him to blame in AEW, I think there's plenty of there's two sides to a story. There's plenty to blame on the other party as well. You know what I mean? What Jungle Boy did was stupid. You know what I mean? On my pay per view, so it's not like he's completely at fault. I feel so. Let's give him a chance. I think it makes for great, interesting television. Punk versus Rollins is a match I never thought we'd see, and we're most likely going to get that. I'm interested. You know what I mean? So far, like if he is such a cancer, I think WWE will weed him out. So I don't think there's no reason to not try it out again.
I feel like, and I'm kind of like teetering on that line, because when Punk came back to AEW, I was like, all right, that's awesome. That's really great. Can he still go? And the answer is yes, he can still go.
Yeah,
Not as good.
stuff.
Yeah, not as good as he once was, but come on, we're talking about 10 plus years. And
Yeah.
a lot more injuries because of him getting his ass kicked in UFC. No offense, just dude got rocked pretty hard. But the backstage stuff, Punk coming in and just being Punk. But once again, Punk being Punk worked 10 years ago. The way people act now, the way people take things way too personally, and their attitudes towards things, and that happens in the movie business as well. Punk being Punk doesn't work in today's climate. Punk has to kind of swallow his ego a little bit. And in AEW, he came in full peacock. I'm Punk. Y'all are going to have to just deal with this and deal with me. And he rubbed some people the wrong way. Some people decided to push those buttons, and other people like Jack Perry. But I will say this, what Jack Perry did, that is something CM Punk would have done 10 years ago in WWE. He would have. Perry pulled a Punk, but Punk didn't like being pulled on a Punk, and so that happened. I'm not saying what he did was right or wrong, but what I'm saying is that was a very CM Punk thing to do that Perry did. And Perry, dealt with it. He finally just came back this past week in New Japan and probably eventually AEW, the way the storyline's crumbling, we'll see. So when everything happened, I mean, it was inevitable that Punk had to get fired, especially after, the events that happened the year prior. It was him coming back. I almost felt like to WWE was, I was happy to see him still wrestle because I like Punk. I do. I respect him. He's a fantastic wrestler, especially on the mic. Maybe not be as good as he once was, but he can still do one thing, and that is captivate the audience and make you want to see what he's going to do. Good or bad, you want to see what Punk's going to do. He's not like some of the wrestlers out there where it's like, I want to kind of fast forward through this. I don't want to waste, 5 to 20 plus minutes on this. There's a lot of people out there right now that are like that. Punk is not one of those guys. Punk, you want to hear what he's going to say. You want to see what he's going to do. I think that maybe he shouldn't have came back so quickly to WWE. I think they probably should have let it simmer a little bit. But I will say this, when Punk did show up, he looked great. He looked better than he did in AEW. I don't know what he's been doing in the few months that he was gone, but he looked like a totally different man. Now, he also got to realize this as well. He's out of strikes, and Triple H is not going to take that bull.
Right.
Triple H didn't take that crap 10 years ago. Triple H has got more power now than he did, and Vince is not going to be there to help him. So he has to be that company man. He has to play that corporate line. While he is given more freedom than he probably did 10 years ago, he also has to keep himself in check, because if he fucks up here, that's it. Like, where are you going to go now? Because New Japan is tied in with AEW. TNA is also kind of tied in with AEW, and he wouldn't go to TNA because he would think TNA would be beneath him to a point, because it is
probably just couldn't pay him.
And he can't go back to Ring of Honor because that's also AEW. So this is really your last stop, Punk. So you kind of have to play, the right way. The only thing that irked me really about Punk's comeback was his first promo, where he's like, "I'm home," and I'm like, "Really? Really? Because you sure said that shit in AEW too. And technically, Ring of Honor is your home, and Ring of Honor is over there. So that shit kind of irked me. But Punk still is Punk. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited for Rumble. I'm excited to see where it goes because this is probably every year you always like, oh, this is the one person who's going to win. It's going to be this person. It's not that hard to figure out. We're going to go this route. But now with WrestleMania being 2 nights, and Elimination Chamber usually is another lock in here, there's about a good 4 or 5 possibilities that could go. It's probably down to 2, the same 2 that we think it's going to be. But I love that WWE, for the first time in a very, very long time, are building up other people to be legitimate winning threats. Whereas like last year, it was like, oh, it's 100% going to be Cody, which takes the excitement out of it. It was like, well, of course Cody won. Like, who else was it going to be? We're here. You got Drew with his own story. You've got, honestly, it's all Raw guys. SmackDown really hasn't been boasting Royal Rumble at all right now, which is hopefully it's going to change. And that's probably because of the whole Roman of it all. I mean, you got Drew, you got Shinsuke, you got Cody, you've got Judgment Day, you've got all these people who are.
That's why I was surprised they did the 4-way for SmackDown because I was like, oh, you just took all your heavy hitters. Like like you said, there's no Rumble leaders because you literally have your 3 main guys. Like I was surprised they didn't just do Roman versus Orton so that we could have AJ and LA Knight going. I want the Rumble.
Exactly. That was the thing that kind of was like, what are we doing here? Like, because you add the whole Rock of it all. And that's a whole other side thing. But yeah, I was like, okay, what's going to be Orton? I mean, I would love if Orton had won, but Orton's not going to win the match at Rumble. If Roman's going to lose, he's going to lose at Mania. He's not going to lose.
He's going to lose at Mania. It's not going to be the Orton. No offense.
I want Orton to win. I do.
Really?
Well, not at Rumble. I would have loved if Orton was going to wrestle Roman at Mania. Then I'd be like, I want Orton to win this so badly. Because I want Orton to have at least one more title reign. I would have preferred it probably be on the Raw side of things.
Right. Well, that's where my hesitation is.
Because I don't think Roman streak. Because like it's one of those things with Roman. We're gonna talk about Roman a little later on a different show, a little more detail of his reign. Because you're trying to look at of the people that he's fought, who is the most signified to actually take his belt away. And obviously everyone's going to say Cody because, the story and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like of the heavy hitters, Raw seems to have the heavy hitters that I could see take the belt from Roman, but Roman's on SmackDown, which the Royal Rumble obviously changes that. Royal Rumble makes it open to everybody. But this 4-way, you just took AJ, who looks fantastic, even though I'm not digging the beard and the super long hair. I wish he would go back to TNA looking AJ. One of these days, just cut the hair. I don't care about the.
I've been waiting for that haircut.
Trim. I will say this. You know the one thing I'm excited about? AJ finally got rid of the crab walk. I hated his crab walk he does when he's like this. He finally got rid of it. I was like, dude, you're AJ Styles. Don't do that. Please, and the soccer mom haircut's finally kind of more like just long hair, so it is what it is. But he looks great, and LA Knight is LA Knight. But why book it this way? That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the booking of this match. Because if Roman comes out there and smashes them, then you just took your 3 heavy hitters, and you just kind of shit all over them going into Mania. Where's the motivation? You're just going to throw them in an elimination chamber.
I mean, Roman's going to do what Roman does every match, which is, have about a 50-50 match, and 7 people will interfere and Roman will win.
True. But now you have these other 3 guys that can basically cause the match to be what it is and go from there. But it's one of those things where I would much preferred a straight one-on-one match with Roman instead of a multi-man. Now, this could be one of the things where because Roman he's had a triple threat, but he's never had a 4-way where he's had to go in and beat 3 guys. He beat Edge and Daniel Bryan at Mania and did it very decisively, at least in terms of how they booked it. But now he's getting these 3 guys, and so it kind of depends on where that goes from there. But I think everyone knows we're going to Mania. But then you have the whole Rock side of it all, which I had been booking this stupid match since before the Bloodline. I had booked this in my head is that when Roman was feuding with Jay when he first came back and they were doing that, back when they still didn't have fans in the audience, I was like, this is what's gonna happen. I was like, Roman's gonna beat the crap out of Jay, maybe injure him or whatever. Jimmy obviously is hurt, so he's out. I was like, Rock's gonna come back. It's gonna be Rock versus Roman at WrestleMania. They're gonna be wrestling. Rock's gonna, have the upper hand, but then Roman's gonna start taking over, and then here comes the Usos. Here comes Solo wasn't a thought at that point, but like here comes the Usos. Here comes Samoa Joe because Joe was still there at the time. And they're going to surround the ring, and they're going to be like, oh, shit. Roman crapped over all of his heritage to be the champ. Now here comes, Rock and all them, and then they all turn on the Rock and help Roman win, and then they start the Samoan Empire, which ended up turning into the Bloodline. But it was supposed to be that they crushed the Rock into becoming the Samoan Empire, which, they did that, but they just left the Rock out of the equation.
Yeah.
But, with Rock now finally here, it's one of those things where I don't want this to be a WrestleMania 29 scenario where you have Punk on this amazing reign and then Rock shows up and takes the title at Rumble to inevitably we all knew who's going to drop it to Cena at WrestleMania 29 because that just left a sour taste in everyone's mouth. Like, if you're going to have Punk lose the belt, have him lose it legitimately here. Don't have him lose to Rock, who's just a placeholder champion for 2 months until the belt goes right back to Cena. I don't think that's going to happen. I think if Rock and Roman do wrestle, I think Rock's going to do the job because it is for Roman. But where it's coming at now, everyone's like, oh, Cody, if he wins, is getting screwed over. It's like, well, you could always have Roman wrestle twice. It's 2 nights. You can have Roman wrestle twice. Will he? Entirely different scenario. But what my main worry is right now, and like you were talking about with the lengths of the title reigns, which I'm glad we have lengthy title reigns. I hated when the belts would change hands. Like, was it like the first?
Yeah, I prefer lengthy over.
Yeah, the first undisputed title when Jericho won it. Like literally, like the belt changed every month, every pay-per-view. It was like it went from Triple H to Hogan, from Hogan to Undertaker, from Undertaker to Rock, from Rock to Brock, and it was just like, damn, can anyone hold the belt for longer than 30 days?
Yeah.
I like that we have lengthy belts, but here's the problem we have going on with SmackDown. SmackDown, you got Roman, who shows up once, every few weeks. He's wrestled probably, once in the last 3 months? But now your secondary champion is Logan Paul, who's also a part-time guy, who's not wrestling very much. He hasn't even defended his title once since he won the belt from Rey Mysterio. Where's the motivation for the wrestlers on SmackDown? What is their reasoning for striving to win matches other than just ego? Because neither champion is on the roster. They're gone. They're off doing their own thing. And if Logan's going to start being more full-time and wrestle more frequently on the shows, then fine. But as of right now, what I'm seeing is there is no representation of champions outside of EO on SmackDown, because the women's tag belts are mostly on Raw. The tag team champions, which is Judgment Day, they're mostly on Raw. There is no championship on SmackDown. So where is the SmackDown wrestlers' motivations? And that is something that drastically needs to change going into 2024. Yeah. Whether it's Roman dropping the belt or Roman just fucking showing up more and actually working. Because I miss the days where it's like, oh, they have to defend their titles once every 30 days. Which, like I said, we'll talk a little bit more when we talk about the reign of Roman. But it's one of those things where we're in this influx on SmackDown right now, where people are just going out there and wrestling. They've got storylines, but it's not leading. You're not building. Like, you built LA Knight, but that was more the LA Knight built LA Knight, not the storylines built LA Knight. But no one's going for any titles. With Gunther has elevated that Intercontinental Championship to a main tier belt. First time in a very, very, very long time. People going for the Intercontinental title, it is now important again because Gunther has made that belt feel important. But you still have Seth out there wrestling very well with the injury angle and all that kind of stuff. But he's still putting the belt on frequently. People are getting title shots. You're building feuds. You have all these things going on. You're really keeping Cody away from it, but You're building, Shinsuke, who I'm so glad they finally gave Shinsuke the right version of himself. They finally let him talk Japanese, and this anime thing is. I'm not a fan of anime, but I love what they are
it's
doing.
different and it's cool. Yeah,
Exactly. You're building all these stars on Raw. You're building up all these people on Raw where I'm like, man, I really want to see Chad Gable rise up through the ranks. And I thought we were going to get that with SmackDown, especially with the Street Profits, because I was like, oh, okay, Profits are with Bobby. Cool. This is how we're going to get Montez Ford into the next level. Get him up there. Nothing against Dawkins, but Montez Ford is the future right there.
No,
This is
I've been a fan of his because being a Florida guy, I got lucky. I've been a fan of his since day one. I'm like, oh, this dude's a star. You know what I mean? He's always carried himself as a star.
Yeah, we need to elevate him to the next level. And SmackDown, him being on SmackDown was a good, like, all right, cool. He's over here, but now they're barely wrestling. They're just kind of there with Bobby. Now, granted, they're starting a new angle with was it Final Testament, which I'm also happy about. Good. Karrion Kross. Give this guy something to do. Please. Karrion Kross is great. Now you're adding Authors of Pain. I'm not upset at that. But that's the other thing that I want to see change in 2024. We need the tag team titles to mean something. Granted, yes, we have the undisputed titles. And when the Usos and Kevin and Sammy were feuding, they felt important. But it wasn't the titles that were important. It was the bloodline feud that made the titles feel important, not the titles themselves. We keep running through this rotation right now of tag teams that aren't tag teams being champs. Usos obviously were tag team champs or tag team partners. Kevin and Sammy, they're best friends, but how many times did they actually team up? Legitimately, not much. Now we got the Judgment Day, which is a group, but you just Priest and Finn, they're not tag team. If anything, you'd put Dom with somebody, and maybe that's their tag team. We have all these tag teams: Street Profits, Alpha Academy, Viking Raiders. Granted, Eric, right?
Eric is out.
Yeah, he's out. Pretty Deadly, who I love. I love Creed Brothers. You have all these legitimate New Day, all these legitimate tag teams out there, and we're not doing anything with them. They're not getting title shots. They're not going for the belts. They're just random tag team matches here and there.
Do you think they need to split those belts back up again? Because that's what I would like for.
As soon as the Usos lost the belts, I thought that they should have split it back up when they went into the draft. There's no reason for them to keep carrying all 4 belts out to the ring anymore. They should have just broken back up again, or start making the champs actually defend the titles. Now, granted, Judgment Day is doing more of that, but still, it's one of those things where it's a once a month kind of thing. Which, granted, 30 days, cool, but they're the only ones that are really following that. But then you have Rhea. Rhea's defended the belt 4 or 5 times in the past year. Granted, you're trying to do it like a UFC style kind of thing where they have breaks in between kind of stuff. Okay, cool. But you're taking one of the most exciting females in WWE and Rhea Ripley, and you're barely utilizing her. She's basically a valet for Judgment Day. She's the voice of Judgment Day. She's the leader of the Judgment Day, but we're not seeing her wrestle. Now, granted, in the last few months, we've seen her wrestle more than she probably has in the last 6 months of her reign, but we need to do more. Io's going out there and wrestling a lot more than Rhea is. Now, granted, she's got I almost said Hurt Business, Damage Control, but we got to start making the champions defend the belts more and start to utilize them. We need to build up stars, not to the point where they're constantly getting knocked down. Because on Raw, you had Gunther going against Bronson Reed, Ivar, Chad Gable, all these people. And it's like, that's why Gunther's reign feels so important and feels so great, because he was defending this title against these people. You kept throwing people at him and he kept winning and stuff like that. Whereas Roman, it started off great, but now it's like, I love Roman, and I love the character, but now it's just like, dude, you got to start wrestling, man. You got to. Like, the story.
To me, you really feel the hole in the show sometimes when there's just no, champ, when there's, when he's missing, you know, because you had Seth doing a lot of rematches. I was like, man, if there's another world title match, the show just would have been a little bit better here. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's just the thing. It was too much. It's too much filler. I don't mind him skipping a show here and there,
Yeah,
but yeah, it
but now
becomes
we're getting PPV or pay-per-views or PLEs, whatever you want to call them now,
yeah,
with no world title matches.
yeah,
Seth and Roman aren't wrestling. You can't do that. You have to have a main title. You have to have something in the main event. Granted, storyline wise, and the storylines have been getting better. They have way better than they were before Vince. And I agree with
yeah,
you. Vince needed to either adapt or go away. He refused to adapt. He went away. Triple H came back in. He brought in people that deserve to be back. And for most of them, he has grown them back up. Io Sky is main one. Karrion Kross, I want more. I would have loved to have seen what would have happened with Bray. Uh, I was not
yeah.
loving what they were doing with him, but I felt like we were just really starting to get into it, and then he got sick. And that kind of derailed everything, and then we were kind of stuck like, when the fuck's Bray coming back? And then what happened is what happened. But I do feel I love that the wrestlers are getting more time. I love that on any given SmackDown or Raw, we have a almost a 20-minute long match where that was during Vince's reign. Once in a blue moon,
Yeah.
we'd have a match go past 10 minutes. I hated these women are going out there and they're wrestling for 45 seconds. It's like, what the fuck's the point? What is the point?
And entrances being longer than matches, and yeah, there's
Exactly.
times where I feel like even like Rampage 1 hour would have longer matches
They
combined
would.
than the entirety
And,
of
and
SmackDown. You
they
know?
might not be fun or meaningful matches, but you know what? At least they're going out there and doing something with it. And I will say this is one thing, and Triple H has been doing this a lot, and I want him to change this because this drives me insane every fucking show, especially for the people that are at the shows themselves. Is you have someone like uh, the Miz come out, entrance, they go to commercial, come back from commercial, backstage interview of somebody who has nothing to do with the Miz.
Yeah.
And we're 5 minutes later. We've gone through a commercial. We've gone through 5 minutes. Miz is still in the ring, just waiting. Like, how is that fun for the people in the audience? AEW doesn't do that. AEW, it's
Yeah.
match, go, go, go. Whereas,
I even enjoy when AEW sometimes skips entrances. It's just like, hey, welcome to the show. Here's a match. Bam. Like
hey,
I like that
we're not
occasionally.
even gonna waste time. Let's
Yeah.
go and just do it. But where it's like here, it's like, okay, cool. If I'm in the audience, I probably have listened to the Miz theme song like 18 times in a row now. I'm sick and tired of this. Can we please do it? And then it's like oh, here comes this, it's Miz TV. Cool. We just wasted like 30 minutes of screen time for this for a backstage segment and had nothing to do with what's going on. They got to stop doing that. They do it on SmackDown. They do it on Raw.
That formatting is weird. Yeah, I'm not sure why they went with that all of a sudden.
I remember I think it was they did it to Seth. And they're like, oh, we ran out of time. And Seth was pissed because he cut like a super small promo. You're like, what the fuck was the point of that? It's because they ran out of time. And they basically told Seth, hey, you got to cut. And Seth was like, I've been out here for like 10 minutes. Let me wait. Because I heard that was a big scuff backstage for like a night. And, Seth got mad, but then everything was fine after that. But once again, formatting, be better at that. This is not rocket science. And Triple H knows this. I don't know why they do this. Either do the segments before the entrances or don't do the entrance and then commercial. Just do the match. Just
Yeah,
say,
well, no,
when we
but
come
just
back, here's this. Or
keep
do
it
the
congruent.
entrances in the
Yeah,
commercial. Like you said with AEW. Do the entrances during the commercial. You can do the picture-in-picture thing, which, granted, I'm not going to lie, when picture-in-picture comes on, I fast-forward through it. Because anything that was important,
yeah.
they're going to show it in replay when you come back. So do the entrances during picture-in-picture. Most of those entrances are going to run through that commercial break. They will. Most of them. So it's just formatting and the way they utilize their wrestlers. I think that, like you said, where we were 2 years ago is a drastic change and in a good way. Matches now feel more important. Matches feel when Roman does wrestle, it does feel big. But, and like I said, we'll touch on this in another episode. It's getting to the point where we're kind of already knowing what's going to happen before it happens, and we need to be shocked. We need to be surprised again. Granted, I don't want anything like a WrestleMania Undertaker losing kind of thing, because that was just one of the worst fucking booking decisions that WWE's done in the last like 30 plus years. But as good as everything's going, they got to fix their formatting. They've got to reestablish the tag team division in the right way. Women's wrestling still also needs to be established, and we'll do a separate show where we talk about women's wrestling at both companies, because both companies need to adjust their stuff there. But yeah, I mean, going into 2024, there's a lot of question marks. One is CM Punk, the other one is The Rock. Is The Rock actually going to wrestle at WrestleMania, or is he setting up something for maybe SummerSlam? Like, hey, I'm here, I'm dropping little breadcrumbs, and I'll keep coming. I'll come back. Or is this something that's happening right away? Because my girlfriend was watching with me when The Rock showed up, and she's like, when's The Rock come back? I go, if he's going to come back, it'll be at Rumble. I go, he's not showing his face again until Royal Rumble. He's not. There's no reason to. Roman's got to focus on this four-way. You're not going to bring Rock in and make this feel even less important. If anything, he'll show up at the end of Rumble, or it'll be the SmackDown after Rumble. And if he doesn't, then I'm sorry, WrestleMania is not happening for him.
You don't think because Chamber's in another country, like maybe Chamber?
From what I've heard, Roman is not booked for Chamber.
Okay.
And every time I've heard Roman is not booked for something, I'm like, yeah, well, they're saying that because they don't want to let go. He has not.
Usually, sure.
It's if it was in the U.S., I would say, yeah, Rock, Roman, Chamber. It's in Australia. Not that Roman won't travel, but maybe Rock won't.
I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking they would want to make it big because they're obviously trying to sell out into that huge arena.
If anything, they'll bring it all around Rhea, because Rhea is Australian. I think they're really going to utilize Rhea to her fullest potential there.
What about Emma? Oh, never mind.
Who? No, I love Emma, but
I danced with her at NXT once. Remember when she danced?
Oh, did you?
So we had a moment. Yeah.
You had a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm the happiest I've been with WWE in a long while. Yeah. I can proudly, because there was years ago where it's like, why do I still keep watching this shit? Because I'm just disappointed every fucking time watching them. And now it's like, all right, I actually can watch Raw and not fast forward 3/4 of it. Because that's what I used to do, is I would put Raw on and I'll fast forward and like, oh, it's this match. Well, okay, I already know what's going to happen in 3 minutes. This match will end, blah, blah, blah. Let's just fast forward through it. There's still certain people that I do that with, because all respect to the world to her, I can't watch Natalya wrestle anymore. It might have helped. Dude, no. She's so borderline cringe to me now. It might have been because of what she did on Total Divas. Oh no, she was awful on that show, and
I zoned out after a season or two, so I don't even know.
Yeah, she's just I can't enjoy Natalya anymore. So, and what she's doing, I don't care about her storyline. I like Tegan. I love Tegan Knox. But like on Raw this past week, when I saw it was them again, I was like, fast forward. I can't watch this match.
They were jobbing them. I'll give them credit. It's kind of the best women's tag division we've had in a while.
But that's the thing, is you have this thing where the women's tags can go everywhere, or the tags in general can go everywhere. You have some great NXT tag teams, or some great NXT women down there that you can utilize as tag teams.
Yeah, they had a 20-person battle royal last night. Like, there's obviously enough talent.
There's more than enough talent. Go down there, wrestle there, because like and once again, you have women on SmackDown. You ain't utilizing them. Why isn't Asuka and Kairi? Why aren't they wrestling for the tag titles? Granted, they're probably waiting for that for like Mania or something. But there are women over there that could have title shots, but they're not doing it because they're not utilizing it. There's so many tag teams on SmackDown that are not getting title shots with Judgment Day. Why?
Yeah,
it should be, because they have to go to both brands.
And that's the problem with just one title run too, with one set of gold, is that even when like they do the occasional, like, all right, we'll have Alpha Academy for Judgment Day, you're like, If there was 2 sets, maybe, but 1 set, no, you're not putting the titles on Alpha Academy today.
Yeah, and
You know what I mean? You have less chance to try things too when you're just have 1 set of titles.
exactly. You have to build these people up, and doing tag team gauntlets or tag turmoils is not helping them because you're having them come in like oh god, what was it? What is it's not as we're saying. What is Jinder's tag team?
Yeah, Indus Sheer,
Indus Sheer.
and
And you had them job in tag turmoil in under like 3 minutes. It's like,
yeah.
was
And
it?
you hadn't seen them in forever too.
Well,
I
that you
looked this
built
up
up.
actually. It was months.
You built
It
up
was months.
Veer for like 8 months.
Veer is coming.
Yes, and you did nothing with him. You did nothing with him. Why? And then you had them come out and job in 3 minutes. It's like, what are you doing? Like, come on. So the tag team division has honestly not been great since what 2003 when you had like Ray and Edge and you had all world's greatest tag team and you had Los Guerreros and you had all them. Like that was like, oh man, like the tag team match is going to be the best match on the card. Since then, I'll go 2005. I'll go 2005. But that's almost 20 years. You've had great tag teams. And I would say the most recent great tag team feud, not counting like Usos and which was a bloodline feud. It wasn't a tag team feud. It was just bloodline. Was probably when the Usos and the New Day wrestled and they had that fantastic Hell in a Cell match, which is the best tag team Hell in a Cell match ever. But that was how many years ago? 4 or 5 years ago since that happened? I think 2017. They have to start building these guys up again. And they have the talent. The talent is there. They just don't utilize time to do it. In tag team wrestling, if you haven't seen AEW, granted they do a lot with the trios, but still, tag team wrestling works. You just have to be willing to give them their moments. And freaking, I mean, FTR. Need I say more? How do you guys fuck up FTR? Like you had the best tag team in the world, and you did nothing with them. You really did.
It just shows you how much it was on the back burner. Yeah.
Exactly. You have DIY, which granted, they're doing stuff with them now, but we need more from the tag team. And it's like I said, as much as great things are going, there's still things that need to be worked on. So that's my side of it. Was there anything else that you think that they should work on or add to on top of what we've already talked about?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with a few things here. Just the talent is there. Like that's almost why like I'm still saying the good outweighs the bad because at least I'm enjoying usually what I'm seeing to a degree, but you can definitely take what is, I don't know if you want to be nice and say an 8 out of 10, a 9 out of 10, and really make it that next level. When you have just building more stars here. I mean, I love Rhea Ripley, but I have maybe once, I was like, Raquel, I guess you could maybe take the title off her.
Is she injured? Is she injured? Because where's Raquel been?
Raquel, I mean, we finally Machine finally did something kind of recently on SmackDown. There's a lot of people that still get lost in the shuffle. Shotzi has had like a moment of like maybe being pushed and then not, So
yeah, I mean, once War Games ended, Shotzi kind of just went to the back.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, she's gonna never mind, like get a women's title shot and not. So the tag teams are there. We mentioned
they're not gonna. I mean, they're not gonna get their own show. They should. They're not. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, well, we want to focus on these people in this time slot. It's like, well, the women need their time too. Because if you keep just giving them 3 minutes, then they're going to be used for what they've always been used for, which is the bathroom break, which is disrespectful. Becky, Charlotte, Bailey, they've worked themselves, and Rhea, they've worked themselves to go, we don't go to the bathroom when they wrestle. But you need to give these other women that time to be utilized like they did in NXT. Women, you don't go to the bathroom when NXT women wrestle. You watch their wrestling because the women in NXT are great, and these are the same women. They're just graduated, but they're not given that time. The women's wrestling,
they're made to look like stars. You know what I mean? In NXT, they do a really good job of kind of making you care about the majority of the roster, and I think NXT does a decent job too of like spreading the love around, which I think sometimes WWE doesn't. Which is where like you'll see the same faces week to week. Where NXT, I feel like you'll see someone for a week and then maybe not for a couple of weeks, because then next week we're going to showcase this person, and then you'll come back to the other person. You know what I mean? You got to find a good way of balancing out and not making it where someone disappears for weeks / a month at a time.
I think with NXT, what has saved them is once again Vince getting his hands out of it. Because when Vince took over NXT and then he changed it into like the freaking Nickelodeon color looking TV show, I couldn't watch it because it was like he made it for kids. It was like every 3 seconds something new's got to happen. Here's 18 different fucking people that we've never seen before, and we're giving them 30 seconds. And then we don't see those people for 4 weeks. And then it's like, who the fuck was this guy again? I can't remember who he is. Now Sean's taken over, and Sean and Triple H kind of have the same mindset. And we're starting to build characters. Carmelo and Trick, when Vince was in charge, they were nothing. Now they're like the top stars. Braun Breaker needs to fucking move on now. When are we bringing Braun up? Braun Breaker is like the Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa of Black and Gold.
I thought he was going to be a Rumble entrant last year and move on. I'm still saying that this year. We'll see. But
I love that we're integrating them more into regular shows now. Like Dragon Lee has been wrestling on SmackDown.
Yeah, he's pretty much a SmackDown guy. Yeah.
Dom going down to SmackDown and wrestling. Baron Corbin, who's somehow finally rejuvenated himself because Baron Corbin's actually enjoyable to watch.
Credit to Baron. I care about Baron for the first time in about 3 years.
Exactly. And that promo he cut last night with Braun was fucking hilarious. It was great. If you haven't watched it, check it out.
No, but, I even enjoyed the. Well, truth be told, you both kind of a-holes.
But it's NXT has the formula. It works. You're getting more closer back to the Black and Gold, which is great because Black and Gold brand was the best brand in WWE when it was going on. I mean, hell, most of that roster is AEW now. And we love AEW. Yeah. So NXT, I really don't have any qualms with. It's just sometimes they try to throw way too much shit into one episode, much like AEW. They kind of have almost like the same kind of format. And they sometimes need to let it breathe a little more, which is what Raw and SmackDown do. But Raw and SmackDown don't utilize the time that they have because they do stupid shit like have an entrance and then go to commercial and then do backstage segment.
And one little pet peeve I've had too, I think AEW does better in, and there's also plenty of things WWE does better in, so I'm not trying to hog on that, but there's still a little recap heavy sometimes. I feel like you're punished as a fan because it's like, oh, by the way, if you didn't see The Rock's return, we're going to show you The Rock's return 3 more times, almost in full length. Yes. Where AEW, if something crazy important happens, it's usually a very brief montage. Hey, real quick, if you didn't see that cage match last week, here's the end of it just to remind you, and we're back to new shit. WWE will show you lengthy recaps.
Yeah, and even in the same show, like, oh, Brock got jumped by blah, blah, blah. Here, right with the commercial.
I see Brock jump Cody. We're going to show you Brock jump Cody 3 more times. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, we've already seen this.
Can you just give me like a new match? Like, hey, I haven't seen Eric Young in weeks.
Did you think we haven't been watching? Like, we started watching the show, we watched the show.
I feel you're punished if you're loyal. Because, like,
you
I don't know if
are.
trying
You are
to grab
punished.
people just tuning in, I guess, is the idea, but damn.
Exactly. They're punishing the people who have been watching it since the episode started. But yeah.
We haven't had Anderson and Gallows on in 3 months. Can we give them a match?
we haven't seen Ricochet in a few weeks. Granted, we know he'll be in Rumble, but we haven't seen Ricochet in a little while. But he is in backstage segments as like the guy standing in the corner. But Ricochet is great. Where's some Ricochet, please? If he was on SmackDown, he'd be wrestling every damn week. He would be. And Raw, you have an extra hour. You have an extra hour. There's no excuses. If you can literally like do a stopwatch for Raw and stop how many times do you recaps and all this stuff. That whole hour is probably taken up in that stuff.
I might.
It really is.
If you hear, I might do that Monday.
I'm thinking about doing it. Well, it's to go home show, so it's probably not a fair one to judge because they're probably gonna do a lot of setting up. But we'll have to do that. We'll have to do that at least on one of these. It's like let's stop watch this shit. But that's our episode. Like I said, that's our landscape of WWE. Next we'll be doing one on AEW. Basically going over, like I said, basically everything we went here. Likes, dislikes, what they need to do better, what they need to change, what we see them going for in 2024. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode. What do you guys think? What do you guys have liked, disliked? What do you guys want to see changed or adapted in WWE this year? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Sean Waskrug. That is Jordan tongue-tied. Jordan Owens. I was going Jordan JPO, and I just flubbed it all over the place.
Jordan Orange?
Yes. There you go. That's for the other episode. But we'll be back next time. In case we don't see you, go watch some wrestling. Go have some fun.
So, goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang!